Are we ready, Josephine?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
It works. Okay.
Well, welcome everyone tonight to the Environmental Committee meeting. Today's date is October 6th, and it's pretty much 7:03. We're doing great. So tonight, the first thing on the agenda tonight is the report from the Department of Sanitation. Richard, that's all you.
Great. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, so I'm going to be wearing my sanitation hat for the next 20 or so minutes. So don't think of me as a board member. Feel free to yell at me or ask whatever questions you have. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully the correct one. Oh no, where are you? Show all windows. Oh crud. Sorry, hold on one second. Let me close a few of these to make this a little bit easier to find. Of course, prepare for everything and then screw it up last second. There we go. Great. So
looks good.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Okay, so hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Richard Day. I'm actually a community outreach coordinator at the Department of Sanitation, and that's who I'm representing here tonight. So I'm just going to take a few minutes, hopefully about 15 or so, to just run through this presentation, and then I can take whatever questions you have afterwards about curbside composting. So let's start. So as you hopefully all know, you should have gotten a mailer if you live in Brooklyn 10. Curbside composting is restarting. We actually started service this week. Monday was our first collection day. Unfortunately not for CB10, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So we're actually coming back earlier than planned. We thought we'd come back next fiscal year, but we got started ahead of time, so it's great. So we're trying to bring the program back more efficiently. If you've tried to sign your building up, you'll see that we're also asking for your contact information, which is something that we didn't have in the past. So when things happen, like, when the program was suspended, we weren't necessarily able to communicate that to everyone. So that's what we're trying to sort of avoid by collecting this information. So we can communicate any sort of updates about composting, whether they be, delays in service or disruptions or updates or changes or anything. So that's one of the main changes this go around, is that we are asking folks, everyone actually, to sign up, whether or not you've had service previously. And then we're also asking for your contact information so that we can communicate with you better. All right, let's go through. So the same 44 community districts that had service before are going to be starting, well, will have access to the service again. So that's all of Manhattan, all of the Bronx, large parts of Queens and Brooklyn, and then part of a district on Staten Island. That's sections 3 and 4 of District 1. So if you live in one of those orange areas, which hopefully all of you guys do, you're in our CB10 meeting, you can actually sign your building up for curbside composting. If you're in one of those yellow areas or beige areas, unfortunately, the service isn't available to you yet. You can still sign your building up. It really helps us to plan, maybe future expansions of service, or even just where we're going to establish more of our food scrap drop-off sites. So the main takeaway here is, if you're in orange, great, you can sign up and get service. If you're in the beige, you can still sign up. You're not going to get service until something changes with the program, but we still want to know that you want to sign up and get curbside composting. Okay, so if you have friends throughout the city, not in CB10, in some of those beige areas, tell them to sign up anyway. Helps us out. We're asking folks to sign up this go around because we want to, make sure that you want to participate. All low-rise buildings, so 1 to 9 unit buildings in those orange areas, outside of Manhattan and the South Bronx, got a brown bin automatically, but not everyone wanted to participate. And so that meant that our trucks are going around not really collecting as much material as they could or should be in that amount of time that they're out there. So we want everyone to sign up so that we know that our trucks are going to be able to go to your building and actually pick up a brown bin to make this more time and cost efficient, basically. And so the more signups there are in your district, the quicker you're going to be able to get service, because we're going to be able to make those efficient routes and actually get the service to you. And we are going to be conducting outreach, and we have been conducting outreach throughout those orange areas to to encourage folks to sign up and sort of spread the word about curbside composting. So like I said before, service just resumed this week for some folks. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do so by going to nyc.gov/curbside composting, or you can call 311 and you can do it over the phone with them. And then so starting with October and each month thereafter, we're going to be expanding service based on the number of signups in a community district. So we need to reach that, a sufficient number, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But once we hit that number, we can actually get you service in your neighborhood. So in your case, CB10. So we'll let you know, hey, you'll be starting service. But if you don't hit that number when we're reviewing this data, you'll also get a message saying, sorry, your neighborhood didn't hit this threshold, basically, and you're going to have to wait another month. But the main thing here is that we really do want to provide everyone with service. So please sign your building up, get your friends to sign up, get your family to sign up. We want to get this to as many people as quickly as we can, but we need you in order to do that. This is just a quick overview of what our schedule looks like. This is mostly internal sort of deadlines, but basically what this is saying is there's a cutoff for signups. When we actually review the signups that we've got, we'll communicate that to other folks in the agency internally, and then communicate that externally, hey, you're going to be getting service, and then service will start on a certain day. So August 30th, we sent this to our operations folks. They reviewed everything, they created the routes. September 15th, we notified people and they started service this past week. So the next group of folks will be starting in November, December, and so on. So again, don't pay too much attention to these dates. The key thing is basically sign up. So I said before that service is going to depend on getting that sufficient number of signups. Unfortunately, that is a pretty vague number because it varies by community districts based on housing density and geography. The same number of signups in Brooklyn, or the sufficient number of signups in Brooklyn 10 is going to be different than it is in Manhattan 5, something like that. So so it really does depend. But one thing remains the same, and that's the more signups you have, the better it is, because we can create those efficient routes. And that's really what this is all about, is just making sure we can run these trucks efficiently. In case you're not sure why you should be composting, just throw some fun information at you. So food scraps, food soiled paper, and yard waste comprise a third of the trash that New Yorkers throw out. We did a waste characterization study back in 2017 that showed that 34% of what New Yorkers throw out is actually compostable material. So that's material that's just going to landfill right now and rotting, releasing methane, when we can instead be turning it into compost and clean energy. So we're just sort of, paying to harm the environment instead of transforming food scraps into something useful and productive. So by composting, you're actually helping to keep your neighborhood clean and healthy. We're keeping food scraps in those secure brown bins instead of like a black garbage bag that's really easily torn open by anyone walking by or any animal that smells food inside. Instead, it's going into the brown bins where it's really protected, I guess is the best word or best way to describe it. They have latching lids, so even if it gets knocked over, all your food waste should stay inside. So you're helping to prevent that from going all over your sidewalk, thereby reducing, rodent and pest activity. You're also helping to make New York City more self-sufficient and resilient. Like I said, we're not going to be sending everything to landfills anymore. We're actually going to be processing it here, turning it into compost and clean energy. If you see the picture on the bottom, that's of Newtown Creek, their wastewater treatment plant. Those big silver things are digester eggs, and basically what we'll do is add the food scraps into there. They'll undergo anaerobic digestion, and we'll capture that gas, and we can actually use that to power, New York. So, food scraps rotting and harming the environment, or compost and clean energy. To me, it's a no-brainer. Just to remind folks of what actually does go in the brown bin, because it's been a while. That's any food scraps, food soiled paper, and leaf and yard waste. So that means fruits, vegetables, processed foods, spoiled foods, meat, bones, and dairy can also go into your brown bin. A lot of food scrap drop-off sites, if you use those, they don't typically accept those materials because they won't break down on the scale that those sites operate at, those mid and small scale operations. we operate on an industrial scale, so it's a very large scale. Actually, I was at our composting facility earlier today, and so it can break down those materials, absolutely no problem. So if you have those things, please feel free to put them into your brown bin. Food sold paper, that includes paper plates, napkins, coffee filters, tea bags. Even if you have like a dirty pizza box, like it's got cheese or something on it, you can tear that off if you want, put that into your brown bin, and you can put the clean part with your regular paper and cardboard recycling. That's really the optimal way to do that. And then any leaf and yard waste. So if you have a house plant or yard trimmings or anything like that, that can also go into your brown bin. There's no need to separate any of this material. It can all go into the same brown bin. So if you have some food scraps and a bunch of yard waste and then some food soiled paper, throw them all in together, totally fine. While I'm here, I also want to clear up one thing that's changed, I guess. So it's totally okay to put plastic bags into your brown bin. That was not always the case, but that has changed. We've added machinery called a Tiger. It's a depackaging machine that basically separates out your food scraps from your plastic bags. So it is totally okay for someone to put food scraps in a plastic bag and put that into your brown bin and put that onto the curb. It'll get collected, it'll get separated out. You don't have to worry about contamination. So there's no need to go digging through there if you see plastic bags or scold a neighbor or anything like that. Things to not put in there, like human and animal waste. So no feces, no diapers, no hygienic products, no like regular recycling like a glass bottle or something like that. That should not go into your brown bin. So stick to food scraps, food soiled paper, leaf and yard waste. The simple little slogan is, if it grows, it goes. Doesn't cover everything, but it'll help you to remember. It's important to note that if you do live in an apartment building, you can still sign up for this. They didn't automatically receive bins in the past, and no one is automatically receiving them now. So if you're a tenant in a large building, you can sign up your building online, but we still do need your building management approval. So we'll reach out to you. We'll say, hey, can you give us your property manager or building owner or whoever's information? We'll reach out to them, explain what curbside composting is, and get them to sign up. So even if you are just a tenant, you're not on like your board or anything, you can still sign up. We'll reach out and we'll get things going for your building. Okay. Not really relevant to you. Small buildings in Manhattan and the Bronx can also sign up, just like large buildings can. There's some confusion over that sometimes, so just threw that in there. Another important note, nonprofits, agencies, institutions, community gardens can all sign up for this. As long as they receive trash collection from the Department of Sanitation, they can receive curbside composting from the Department of Sanitation. So if you know folks who work at a nonprofit and they have a lot of food scraps, encourage them to sign up. We can get them brown bins and get them collection as well. Okay. So just going back a second. So after you sign up, well, when you're going to be getting service and really every step along the way, our customer service team will keep updating you. So if you're going to be starting service or if you're not going to be starting service, they'll let you know, hey, you're starting service, this is your collection day, or sorry, you're not starting service yet. Keep getting buildings to sign up in your neighborhood. We'll let you know what's going on. Folks are still required to use our brown bins. Oops, sorry if you can hear my pet bird yelling. And then just like your trash and recycling, we're going to be collecting this material on a weekly basis. So this is once a week collection. Other parts of the city had it multiple times a week, and they're down to one day a week as well. Nothing really changes for Brooklyn 10, it's still once a week. If you still have your old brown bin, that's awesome. We want you to keep using it. But if you need a new brown bin, we can get you one as well. Generally speaking, it's one of our larger bins or two of our smaller bins per every 10 units in your building. So if you live in a high-rise building, that's it. If you live in a smaller building, you'll get one larger bin or two smaller bins. Okay. If you lost your bin or you never got a bin, we can provide you with them. In case there's any confusion about this, bins are totally free, and we actually will deliver them to your home about 2 to 3 weeks before service starts, or in that 2 to 3 week period between being notified that you're starting service and your actual service start date. So we get them to you after we notify you. So you're good to go for your first collection day. Oops, there's a typo on here and everything. Okay. just going back to what I said earlier, folks in these orange areas are eligible. This map is on our website, nyc.gov/curbside composting. So if someone's unsure, but they can find themselves on a map, you can say like, hey, you're eligible to sign up. But again, even if they're not, we still want them to sign up. So really, if they're interested at all, sign up and we'll get in touch with them about next steps. Okay. Okay, so before CB10 gets curbside composting, or before your building does, if you have a reluctant landlord or something like that, we still encourage folks to use our food scrap drop-off sites. We've got over, we're probably at around 150 of them now throughout the city. So the idea is that you can bring your food scraps there, on your way to work, or, maybe on your way to the store or something like that. Please check our website out before you go, nyc.gov/drop-food-scraps. Each food scrap drop-off site has different hours of operation and materials that they do accept. Nothing is worse than bringing your food scraps somewhere only to find out that it's closed or they don't accept what you're bringing. So please check before you go. We've got at least one in Bay Ridge. I should have checked that before.
4th Avenue Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, the church. I know that one. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I think we had one or two before the service suspension, but I'm sure we're working on getting more into the area. One isn't sufficient for a community board, so we're working on it. So if anyone is interested in opening a food scrap drop-off site, they can go to on.nyc.gov/host-a-drop-off, submit the form. We'll reach out, make sure that you have all the support, information, materials, and everything that you need in order to actually operate one of those sites. It's not a small undertaking, but we are there to help. So please, if you're interested, sign up to E1. We also give out free compost. That's what this is all about, right? It's getting New Yorkers free compost. So we used to do these large community givebacks. Unfortunately, we're not doing them right now, but we can still partner with community groups to distribute compost. I know a few months ago, we partnered with Narrows Botanic actually to give out some compost. So you can learn more about compost at nyc.gov/getcompost. And then just some quick reminders or notes before I finish this off. You can line your brown bin with a clear plastic liner like you would for the regular recycling, like metal, glass, plastic, or paper. So you can use one of those clear plastic liners. You can use a compostable liner. That's totally fine too. You can use a paper bag as a liner. So like a Trader Joe's bag or a paper lawn and leaf bag works fine. Or you can choose to not line your bin if you don't want to. Lining it keeps it cleaner, neater, smells down, prevents things from sticking to the side of your bin, makes it easier for us to service. So there's a lot of benefits to it. So I highly encourage you to actually line your bin with a clear plastic liner if at all possible. But just letting you know that those are your options. And then lastly, some folks might have gotten our kitchen containers, like you can see on the right, that small white, and it looks gray in here, container. Don't put that onto the curb. That's going to go missing. Our sand workers won't know what that is. So please put your brown bin out onto the curb when you are actually setting out for a collection. And that's all I've got. So I will stop sharing. And if it's okay to take some questions, I'm happy to take them.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. I love this program. It's near and dear to my heart. Does anyone have any questions regarding the residential program? I mean, I have a question that's slightly off. It's not the residential program, but I was just wondering if there's any current or future plans to work with the DOE for the food scraps that come out of the schools.
Yeah, we actually we restarted our I don't work on that program exactly, so I can't speak to the specific details of it, but we do have a program that does collect food scraps from schools. Yep. So I don't know the exact number of schools, so I can reach out to that team and actually get you those numbers, but we do collect food scraps from schools.
Excellent. I wasn't sure if that, you occasionally see a lot outside, so I wasn't sure, and I'm glad to hear that. Does
Okay.
anyone else have any?
Tracy of 3, Dan, Jana, and then Larry.
Okay. Jana, would you like to go ahead?
Are there any penalties for anything incorrectly put in a bin? I know my family would probably be bad at making sure everything's correct. So will anyone tell you like, okay, this is incorrect or something?
So no, there aren't. Since it's a free and well, since it's a voluntary program, I should say, there aren't any penalties for it. It's not like recycling incorrectly. But if folks are afraid of doing something incorrectly, or you want to prevent that from happening, we do have outreach materials available in a whole slew of languages, some of the most spoken languages in New York City, that are available for folks to download or to order, and we can deliver them right to your home, free of charge. The materials can show what exactly you can compost, like basically what that slide showed you. Your food scraps, food soiled paper, and yard waste. So it's got the language written out, and it also has those visuals as well. So even if folks can't read what the sign actually says, they can use the imagery as a reference. But generally speaking, any food scraps, that's the easiest thing. If you can eat it, it can go into the brown bin. Those other things might get a little bit confusing to some folks, but if you can eat it, put it in the brown bin. It's the simplest thing to say.
Dan, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. Just in case in case the data has gotten to your ears, do you know how Community Board 10 is looking in terms of signups?
Yeah, so that's the exciting thing is we actually just put some data on our website. So if you go to nyc.gov/curbside composting, there's a new link on the side that says like signups by community district or something like that. I don't know the link or the language offhand since this just went live like
I'm
at the end of
looking at
last
it
week.
now.
Yeah, so that data you'll notice is about a month old. And that's just
I think
know,
we're
the
number
data that we-
10, right? I think we're number 10.
I think you were
BKS.
7, okay.
Ooh, if we're
We're in the
BKS
top
7, we're
Oh
number
no,
2.
I'm sorry. You're Brooklyn 10, but I think you were 10th in terms of number of signups.
Yep,
Sorry,
we are.
Is that
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Past
oh, sorry,
500.
that's in sanitation borough speak. So your BKS 10 is what it would be. So that'll give you an idea at least of where you sit. Again, that's last month's data. We'll update it over time to reflect signups, but that's where we are currently.
Okay, Tracy, we have some more questions. Larry, Essa, and then Preston.
Larry, you want to go ahead?
Myself, all right. In an apartment house would say 50 units. How many containers is that going to require, or how is each individual unit going to have fill up their own compost? And then what? And then the super puts all the boxes, all the brown boxes out.
So so the idea is that the bins would be shared throughout the apartment building. The general numbers that we would do is 1 larger or 2 smaller bins per 10 units. So you could get 5 of the larger ones or 10 of the smaller ones. In reality, we can work with your building if you have like a specific setup in mind, and maybe get you a few extra bins if you want to do something like put 1 on each floor or something like that. So we can work with buildings to we can be a little bit flexible with that. But yeah, the idea is that the bins are shared throughout the building or with other tenants in the building, and that they would all go out onto the curb, by whoever manages waste in your building and be collected that way.
Or is the super going to have to mix all this stuff together? I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, whoever manages waste in your building would be the one to do that, unless you had some other arrangement. Maybe since maybe someone in the building really wants this program to succeed, and so they volunteer to actually take out your brown bins. It's just like any other commodity, any other.
Having a say 1 big bin for an apartment house.
No, unfortunately, we only have those 2 size bins, the 21 and the 13. Food waste tends to be really, really heavy. So if you were to fill up a regular like 40-gallon bin, that would be like a couple hundred pounds. These smaller bins keep that weight at a manageable. Keep that to a manageable weight. And they also have wheels on them, so it makes it easier to get around as well. So our sand workers and your super or you don't hurt yourself moving it around.
The composting. What do you make where do you actually do is that done all in Newtown Creek or?
No, so the compost actually comes from Staten Island, the Staten Island compost facility at Fresh Kills. So that's where all of the compost comes from.
The former landfill, the dump.
Yep.
Essa, and then Preston and Ann.
Richard, hi, this is Isa. Thanks for the
Isa, sorry.
presentation. That's okay. That's no problem. Thanks for the presentation. It was a very good slideshow. Is there a way you can share that with us by email, the slideshow itself?
Yeah, for sure. I can send that around. I can send it to Josephine.
Thank you.
Also worth noting, I guess, is that we do a weekly webinar that's really aimed at like building management for those large buildings. But a lot of the content for that presentation and this one is the same. So if you go to makecompost.nyc/webinar, you can actually check out like the slides from that presentation. Or if you want, you can go to on.nyc/DSNY webinar and sign up for a webinar that way. They're free. We do them like Friday mornings. So just putting that out there as another option.
Great. Preston?
Yes, hi. Thank you for your presentation. In your PowerPoint, you had a picture of a truck that was split like 50-50 with, I think, organics and landfill. I'm wondering if there's been any data collected on the reduction in capacity of regular landfill waste, if that will cause a, if the new trucks can fit that with the regular landfill based on how many people are signing up for food waste, or the data, if that will be, that small capacity will still meet the needs of our districts.
Sorry, are you asking about the actual size of the trucks?
Yeah, if it's 50-50, will the half capacity still meet the needs of our districts?
Sure. So that's just one of our trucks. It might not have even been collecting compost. It could have been, trash on one side and recycling on the other. I don't recall the picture offhand. But no, we appropriate trucks will be provided for the tonnage that they anticipate for the district. So if they think it can be handled by, a split body truck, maybe they would do that. But I think generally speaking, we're going to be using a regular rear loader for composting.
Great. Ann?
I stepped away for 1 second, so I hope this is not something you said in that 1 minute. How do you get the countertop containers? They're very handy.
So we gave them out to low-rise buildings when we first rolled out. Actually, I wonder if we did that with Brooklyn 10 because it was
Yeah, you
one of,
did.
like the
Go
pilot
ahead.
areas. Okay.
Yeah, I still got mine.
Yeah.
Great. Otherwise, if you live in a large apartment building, so 10 or more units, you can sign up for what's called a kitchen container distribution event. So after you get notified that you're going to be getting service, you can request the event through our events page. Someone from sanitation will come out and do like a presentation for your building and also bring those to your building to distribute. So we can do up to 100 of those for a building. So if your building has 10 units, we're going to bring 10 of them. If your building has 1,000 units, we're still only going to bring 100 of them. 100's the max, and we don't distribute them to low-rise buildings anymore. So unfortunately, if you live in like a one-family home, we're not going to be able to get those to you. But you can buy a similar thing at like any home improvement store, or if you go on Amazon, just search for like countertop compost container or something like that. You should be able to find them. They're just 1 gallon containers. There's nothing really special about them other than the fact that we provided them and they're free to residents. So that tends to get people pretty excited.
Okay. Preston, is your hand up again?
Yes, I saw the picture of the orange tent, and I was just wondering, is there any other plans to encourage people to sign up for this? We meet that threshold besides that mailer that went out, or any educational opportunities from then on?
Yeah, so we have an outreach team that's continually doing events throughout the city. So we've got different borough-based teams. So we actually had our Brooklyn team out at the 3rd Avenue Festival last week. So or over the weekend, I should say. So we're continuing to do events everywhere to sort of get the word out, get people to sign up. So I guess if you or if anyone here has any suggestions or connections to groups or events or anything that would want any more information or want us to table or present or anything like that, please reach out to me. Let me know. We're always looking to do more. But that's what we're doing. We've sent out the mailer to everyone. We're continuing to do events throughout the city. We've got some boosted social media posts as well. And those are really, and meeting with community boards and elected officials and trying to get on like their newsletters and things like that are the ways that we're trying to reach folks.
Yeah, Richard, one of our board members asked in the chat if there are flyers that they can distribute to, to the community, friends and families. Is something on the website that's downloadable?
Yeah, sure.
Or if you could send us material. Most of my materials are pretty outdated.
Sure.
I don't know if there's new education materials that we can grab. If people who are interested in dropping their block or encouraging neighbors, that would be great.
Yeah, right now we basically have like a sign up flyer. We're working on updating our other materials, so that's really our main one right now, but that is translated into a bunch of different languages as well. So I can share that with you as a PDF, and I can also send you the link so you can order. I'll share it in the chat, I guess. You can order physical copies of it for yourself, or you can download copies to share digitally or print out.
Okay, and we had one more question emailed to us by a resident asking about yard waste, saying that I noticed in your pictures that it was tied, some of the branches and twigs, because it's really hard to package it. So is tying loose branches and tree debris, is that acceptable? And would a contractor bag be acceptable?
So any yard waste that doesn't fit into your brown bin, you can place out in like a rigid unlined container. So like a regular 40-gallon container. You can put it in there, just slap one of our yard waste only signs on it and put it outside, or put it out next to your brown bins, or at least on your collection day for composting. Ideally it's next to your brown bins, and ideally it's labeled so that our sand workers actually know to collect it as compost instead of, something else. If you put it out on your trash day, it might just get collected as trash. So please do your best to make sure it's out on the right day and the right situation. But you can use a rigid unlined container. You can put it into your brown bin. If you do have like some branches, you can bundle them with twine and stick them out alongside your brown bin as well.
Great, thank you.
Or you can use those paper leaf and lawn bags.
Okay, Tracy, it's back to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Richard. Really appreciate the presentation.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And next, I believe we have Robert with the DEP.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So you guys requested that we come and speak about the porous pavement project that's upcoming in the district. I'll turn it over to my counterparts. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adriana Kokovic, Director of Right-of-Way Green Infrastructure at DEP.
Hi, this is Tony Lee. I'm the project manager for the project that's going in at CB10.
I guess if we could just give a rundown of what porous pavement is exactly and how we're going about selecting locations. And then from there, if the board has any questions, we'll take that.
Sure. So I'll share my screen. I've got a map.
Oh, Adriana, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry, that was strange. Right when I started sharing, the mute went on. Let me try again.
Yeah, the mute just went on again. Ooh.
How about now?
There, that's it. We got it.
Okay, cool. I think the audio for the tab was on for some reason instead of the Zoom. I'm more familiar with Teams, but we'll get through this. So this is can you see the map on your screen?
Yes.
Great. So this is the CB10 area, and we were able to overlay it with the contract areas we have currently in design for green infrastructure. And you can see this purple area is the section that overlaps with CB10. You may have seen us over the past year, sometimes walking the streets, looking for potential locations for green infrastructure, as well as seeing some of the drill rigs out there performing geotechnical investigations. So whenever we're going into any area for green infrastructure, we are making sure that, one, there's actual locations to site them, because throughout the city, there's tons of infrastructure in the right of way, and we have to kind of work around all that existing infrastructure, as well as ensure that the subsoils are suitable for green infrastructure. So when we're drilling, we check what the soil composition is, as well as we perform permeability tests to make sure that the water moves quickly enough through the soil, because all of our practices do have an open bottom, and although they may look gray on top or concrete, our porous concrete goes through and actually infiltrates naturally into the subsoil underneath the ground. There's no connection to the sewer systems. So I want to share one more tab because we have a porous pavement brochure. Let me see. Okay, making sure I'm not muted. So this is our brochure that's kind of a handy tool to reference, and what we like to share with the communities that we're coming into on porous pavement, and specifically that area shaded in purple in CB10. We are looking for porous pavement or porous concrete opportunities. As you can see in these pictures, we put them and install them within the parking lanes in the street. They don't go into the sidewalk, and they are precast modular pieces, and they come in slabs of 4 foot by 5 feet, and the sub base is a open graded stone, which helps to capture and manage some stormwater before it infiltrates naturally into the ground. Here we have some pictures of the installation process. You can see the stone underneath and how the panels get placed in. Are there any specific questions about the porous concrete panels?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do have a question. So when the porous concrete, is it along the entire block? Is it in segments? Does it go from curb to curb?
So when we're doing these geotechnical investigations, we're taking our time at reviewing them really carefully, because we're trying to cover like the majority of the block with them for that continuous look and also the maximum management we can have. So wherever we're installing these, we're really trying to maximize the locations on the block. It's different than like the rain gardens per se. You'll see a couple rain gardens throughout a block, but the porous panel system really works together and would be a continuous segment. I think like this picture you could see up on the top left of your screen. This is what it would look like in the parking lane.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. When I was reading the information that Joe had sent us, it did say that they occasionally need to be, I think the word was vacuumed, but I'm assuming a maintenance of some sort. How often
Yes.
does that happen? And is there a risk of them, preventing, like any kind of debris preventing the drainage?
Sure, great question. So far, we've installed these in 3 pilot areas throughout the city, and we've been using those locations to test different maintenance equipment and maintenance frequencies. Something great that we've noted is even if the panels were not maintained for a significant period of time and may have clogged, we're able to come back in with this high pressure water and vacuuming system that rejuvenates the panels. So it's less of a you know, you can either go out there regularly with a regular pass and keep them working, but just because it may not have been maintained for a period of time doesn't mean that the actual drainage layers of the asset are now, you know, silted up or not working. It's typically just that top layer on the panel that would get clogged, and that the equipment is able to remove that. So now we've been working on frequencies. And so in some of our pilot areas, we just maintained them this past spring. We did testing before the maintenance. We're doing testing right now. And we're planning on maintaining them again, like mid-November after the fall, you know, the leaves drop and everything, because that's when a lot of the debris will be out there.
Great, thank you.
I see Anne has a question.
Hi, could you talk a little bit about the utilities under the street and how you're going to plan to access them? Will there be manholes and access points? What happens with that?
Absolutely, great question. One of the reasons why we stay so shallow is to really reduce the reduce any interferences with utility lines. We're only going 2 feet deep, so that in itself reduces a lot of conflicts. We also have in our standard designs details for if there is a manhole casting or a valve and how the panels should be set around it. So I don't know if it's clear here, but we do have a header on the side. That's a solid concrete piece. And we could put those headers basically in, and those concrete, we can encompass any of the manholes or valves with solid concrete so they're still set, and then continue our panels around them.
Just as a follow-up to Anne's question, if there is something like a road resurfacing and these are damaged, will they be replaced right away? How will it affect the whole street?
So we have protections information on our website, and we've been coordinating very closely with DOT for these panels, as well as for the other types of green infrastructure we have throughout the city. So we have detailed protections information on how our assets need to be protected when there is resurfacing or any other types of construction. We've already worked with some RRM crews that recently repaved near our pilot location in the Bronx. We've also worked with utility companies that have had to pick up some of these panels. And that's what one of the great parts about these panels are being precast is that they're modular, they're able to be picked up. The fill, the open graded stone is able to be put back after their work is done. So far it's been working. We've created a email address and group within our unit specifically to address any utility interferences or, you know, other agency interferences. So before anyone starts work, they must get a DOT permit. On the DOT permit, if they overlap with any of our infrastructure, there is a stipulation for our green infrastructure in there that says this specific unit at DEP has to be contacted. We work with them closely on discussing the protections that'll be required for their work, and visit the locations with them. We also, so we are working with OCMC in a lot of instances to issue violations if necessary. And then we've added green infrastructure to the sewer use rules. And we also have a green infrastructure enforcement unit at DEP now that has the ability to go out and enforce if we see any damages to green infrastructure or any lack of protections. So we've been really trying to keep up with the work that's going on in this way, and I can send some of the information we have on our protections requirements as well.
Great, thank you. That was an excellent answer. Does anyone else have any?
Yes, I do.
Larry?
You say the city is responsible for maintaining these. Does that include, is it DEP or is it DOT going to be maintaining these?
DEP. So all green infrastructure maintenance is done by DEP. Includes the rain gardens, catch basins, if there's catch basins to some of our drainage structures, and the porous panels.
And DOT does the rest.
Yeah.
And then
The roadway. Yep.
These private utilities are going to be chopping it up anyway. Is that has to be coordinated with DEP?
Yes.
Especially a sponge of some kind, is that? Is there anything where they were providing if they collected the water starts collecting and it's like a void? Is that going to be a problem with water collecting and say if there's a void under these units, the panels, they're going to have to be repaired or somehow?
Are you saying that something would happen because the water is collecting underneath them?
Yes, if there's a void underneath and it starts collecting, the water starts collecting. Are these panels going to start, collapsing? Or I can see people going to be.
No, they're very structurally sound. So we've gone through a few iterations of the design, and we've really kept in mind the structural stability. We want these to be robust. They're in New York City streets, and cars are parking on them. They may be driving over them. So what we've done is they have that concrete header in the roadway. We're also redoing the curb when we're coming in and making that curb just as deep as the practice. We add in GeoGrid, which helps improve stability, as well as compact some of that stone. So you really don't have these open voids. The area that we're digging up is filled with stone and drainage cells, which are these plastic large openings with voids, but they're all very structural. So they're all piled on top of each other and make for a structural, asset. It's not that we're just, pouring water in and not accounting for that.
Dan?
Yeah. I know that this is a big project, that it's starting in like Windsor Terrace and it comes all the way down, I guess, all the way into Bath Beach. I just want to make sure we're still in phase 4. And is there any change to like the anticipated start and completion dates? Or I think the last thing I remember is it's like 2025 or something like that.
Yeah, great memory. Yeah, you guys are still like 2025, maybe end of 2024. So it is a very large scale project, and we have to do it in phases. The survey alone is taking us a very long time, and we've just started it. So in some areas, actually in this area, we haven't started survey yet. We're still reviewing the geotechnical information that's coming in. And then we will be selecting the street segments that would proceed to survey. So that makes end of 24 reasonable for a construction start date.
And these are for Coney Island Creek discharge, right? By and large?
Yes.
Great.
Or Owl's Head. I'm sorry. It's actually Owl's Head. Yes.
Really? All right.
Oh,
Interesting.
oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was Coney Island Creek too. I thought it was a small section to Coney Island Creek.
That's the purple area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wasn't sure exactly where the watershed line bordered. So
yeah, it's a great question.
Awesome.
We are also doing work for Coney Island Creek. That's why I'm like, yes, but it's not necessarily in your area. Let me see if I can. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble.
Oh no, no worries.
Let me go back to my handy.
ArcGIS saves the day. Yeah, so we have a little bit in Diker.
Yeah.
You're muted again.
Oh no. Yeah, we got you back though.
Okay, how about now?
Great, perfect.
So this green area is actually the draining to Coney Island. This area that's in purple is Owl's Head.
Oh,
and that's how we designate our contract areas. Yeah.
Okay. Our letter
Nice.
did say Coney Island Creek. I think I just read the letter that we received. Construction in district will reduce ponding on streets and help make Coney Island Creek cleaner. Because this area was originally presented to have rain gardens. So there were a number of testing pits with green marking. So we got a whole host of questions from Diker Heights residents. So I think many will be happy because they were a little bit worried about maintenance of rain gardens and the porous pavement.
We heard you, definitely. When we started out there, we heard you, we heard your concerns, and it just seemed to line up with the porous concrete that we've been wanting to roll out as well. And you know, we're happy that we're able to continue with the porous concrete in this area.
Perfect. Thank you. Tracy, I don't see any more hands raised.
Well, I'm very excited about this project personally. So thank you, Adriana, Robert, and Tony. We appreciate your presentation.
We're glad to hear you're excited. That's we love to hear that. So yeah, if any questions come up or you'd like any more information, feel free to reach out. I would point to our website, New York City DEP Green Infrastructure page. We have all of our standards. We now have our specs up on the DDC website, so you have a link there on ours as well. The map, protections information, everything is publicly available on our website.
One last question.
Sure.
Again, why the Owl's Head, why in particular in this outlying area of the Owl's Head drainage area? Maybe I missed it. Why was that area chosen?
So if you look at kind of all of the contract areas which is all these different colored areas throughout the city that we've gone into because of our consent order to reduce combined sewer overflows, what DEP did was determine areas with the greatest number of CSO events and frequencies, as well as receiving water body quality. And those locations were delineated and contract areas were formed.
I see they're set back from the shoreline. Is that, and what's New York Rising Phase 3? What's that? The light blue, New York Rising.
Sure, that's another contract area. They've actually completed construction.
But it was not draining into the sewage plant, or what was it?
These are all green infrastructure practices, bioswales, rain gardens.
Mm-hmm. But not being used in the Owl's Head drainage area.
That one looks like it's a Coney Island Creek
This one,
water
yeah,
body.
this is Coney Island Creek. Let me see. Hold on. Let me check if something.
The green dot.
I may have misspoke.
Some of them.
The green dots signify.
Those are on-site properties that have constructed green infrastructure. So like this one is at IS 220K. There's a synthetic turf field there that we've constructed. Right. So I think this goes to open waters, and Owl's Head is the treatment plant that the water drains to.
I noticed they're set back from the shoreline.
Yeah, so something we can take into consideration when we're delineating the areas we can implement green infrastructure is groundwater table, bedrock. In this area, we look at the groundwater information and make sure we're set back enough so that when we do go into it, we're not having that constraint as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, well, thank you again. Appreciate it. Is there any more questions? No? All right. Thank you so much, Adriana.
Thank you.
So I believe the next thing on the agenda is any future committee topics. Joe, did you have something that you wanted to add for that?
No, I just know it's your first new meeting back, the new meeting of the session, and I thought maybe you'd want to just speak to your committee members if there's something during the year they'd like to tackle.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I would like to revisit at some point during this year is it's something that Doris brought up when she was committee chair, and just to start working with the tree beds again and helping in the neighborhood, helping to clean up and try to figure out some way to outreach for that. It's just that I was walking around the other day and I was noticing that even maybe it's the pandemic, but they need a little love.
Yeah.
So does anyone else have any ideas?
Yeah, and then also I just wanted to share too with the committee that during our capital and expense outreach, everyone pretty much after our recent, stormwater management is really at the top of a lot of our residents' minds. Some people get flooded, frequently, others, hadn't been flooded in 30 years. So certainly climate change and the impact to stormwater management. We had 3 requests this year for DEP to conduct surveys in different portions of the district that have seen recurring flooding areas. So we may, have a meeting in the future. We'll be going to be meeting with the executive committee and really looking at our maps to see chronic flooding areas and ways that we can perhaps, we had talked about it, assisting with catch basins on the corners and, educating people that those catch basins during heavy rain events really need to be clean, because when you have a heavy rain event, all of that debris just ends up there, clogs the catch basins and makes street flooding worse. We have certain parts of the district that are worse than others, maybe looking at those areas to focus those education campaigns in those areas that tend to get the worst flooding. Maybe that will help. So that's an idea that we had here in the office, just hearing from residents who were experiencing those issues.
Have there been any other issues that have come up outside of the flooding?
The other issues are always sanitation. Department of Sanitation, we have unfortunately a lot of improper disposal locations where we really rely upon MLP. Those are the motorized litter personnel that comes and sweeps. We have a lot of those areas because we have a highway that runs through. So we have a lot of desolate places that people like to dump their garbage. And if we don't have MLP resources, it tends to build up and pile up. And we are very fortunate that our city council member, Justin Brannan, allocated additional funds in the budget for MLP and corner basket collection, but that only includes his portion of Board 10. So in the northern end of the district that's represented by Councilmember Menchaca, he did not provide those additional funds. So we continue to advocate for residents who are just overwhelmed sometimes with dumping, especially along the 62nd Street dividing line of our district on the sidewalk adjacent to the subway lines. We get a lot of calls and requests for sanitation. So advocating for those services, I think, is something that is important to continue to do as we prepare our capital and expense priorities. And, I think the organics program coming back is really positive. We have a number of residents who have reached out to us and hoping that it comes back. That's one question I didn't ask Richard earlier is we did get this question. I'm just looking at my notes. When organics first came in, it was divided into sections. Our district has different sanitation sections. Would sanitation, if there's more, desire in one part of the district or 2 sections of the district, or the sanitation look at the whole district to resume organics?
So we're looking at like the numbers and placement and everything else, expected tonnage. And then the folks at our operations management division are the ones who are actually going to be like creating those efficient routes. So they'll definitely look at everything on a larger scale and also like on the smaller section scales as well, I'm sure.
Okay, great. Anne has her hand up, and Dan.
Yeah, just a reminder that the perimeter of Diker Golf Course is basically a dumping ground.
That's an MLP location, yes.
Okay. The entire perimeter.
The entire perimeter.
It's not only the more desolate areas. And I know this is a little misplaced, but I'll just mention it quickly. The tractor trailers and recreational vehicles parked there permanently. They basically encircle that whole golf course. That has not changed, nor has it improved. On future topics, I know it's an old topic for us on this committee, but maybe some more brainstorming and creativity we can come up with respect to dumping of garbage on the corners and the corner refuse containers throughout the district. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe we could put it on our agenda.
Great. Dan?
Oh, yeah. And Tracy, toward the tree pits, I do know that there was the Bay Ridge Environmental Group had done a survey, I think last year, or maybe this past summer or early spring. They walked, I think, every block in Bay Ridge and did a survey of the tree pits to compare and contrast to the New York City Parks Department street tree map, because some things weren't entirely accurate. I don't know if maybe I could get in touch with them and see if they'd be willing to give a presentation on what their findings were for all of those tree pits, because that would be interesting, a little bit extra on the ground data to compare to parks. Maybe they would also, I know they've been pretty present at a lot of the parks cleanup events, so they might be a resource that we could reach out to mobilize some people as well.
Great.
Also putting it out there, parks and sanitation can both help with those sorts of events.
Great, okay.
Yeah.
Jana?
Speaking about those tree places in front of the houses, I only started to realize that that was an issue when a lot of people actually put in front of our house. So I was put in charge calling and figuring it out. 311 sent me to the Parks Department to get they have like little gates. No one ever answered, and I kept calling every day. But one of my neighbors actually covered the dirt with like concrete to stop people from doing on there. Yeah, I see.
No, concrete.
They don't allow that. I don't know how he ended up doing it, but I could never find the gates. And I think it was Justin Brennan also, he put on his Facebook page that it's actually really hard to get those gates. I think
they're really expensive, and
right?
The city did have a program, but actually Home Depot and some of the big lot has the plastic trims that make it easier to kind of keep out along the sides. We have found some blocks have done beautification projects. What comes to mind is Bay Ridge Parkway, Doctors Row. They had won the Citizen Committee grant one year, and they used that to do plantings on tree pits. And when a tree pit is well cared for with plantings, people tend to stay away from throwing trash, not all the time, but and they also used some of that funds to get some wrought iron and do some plastic protection of those kind of little fences, which you can easily buy. But we do have it on our capital list. It's also another, every year we get a request for a contract to protect the trees with those, kind of fancy wrought iron guards, tree guards.
I know that on where I walk my dog going down to the water, there's a lot of tree wells that people have actually planted higher shrubs and plants, like even kind of just filled up the space, and people do respect that a lot more, I've noticed. So.
Richard, do you have a?
Yeah, one thing, I'm pretty sure, Tracy, that you're also on the communications committee, if I'm not mistaken. No, not anymore. Oh, sorry. Okay, well, this would have been, well, this still is an idea. that I had before, it would be to just sort of include just, I don't know, maybe an environmental tip of the month or something in our newsletters.
Okay,
You know,
that's a
like
great idea.
don't shower while it's raining or something like that. You know, reduce your water usage while it's raining, or like, did you know you could sign up for curbside composting? Or just other general environmental tips that we can maybe get from like a DEC page or you know, EPA or something like that, just to sort of spread awareness of maybe some of these basic sort of things or easy low-hanging fruit kind of things that maybe not everyone is aware of.
Okay. We'll speak to Henry Stewart, the new chair of communications.
All right, Josephine, do you have anything else for this
No,
evening?
that is all. So we just need a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I see lots of hands. All right, thank you,